Prince Rainier's daughter Stephanie was always the black sheep in the royal family, but few would say she deserved the final betrayal he dealt her on his deathbed. Rainier III was the Prince of Monaco who swept the American actress Grace Kelly off her feet. But lurking beneath the surface of his idyllic, princely life was a family full of connivers, liars, and thieves. Rainier was born in May of 1923. He was the son of Princess Charlotte of Monaco and her husband, Prince Pierre. While his mother was the one with the royal blood, she was an illegitimate child. It wasn't until Rainier III's grandfather named her heir presumptive that little Rainier got his royal titles. His mother wasn't the only one with a sordid past and something to hide. Prince Pierre, Rainier's father, was a French aristocrat before he became the Monegasque prince by way of marriage. And it seems like the marriage was for appearances only. Rainier was born into a family and a palace built on secrets. And one of the biggest secrets was that Prince Pierre didn't love his wife because he was a closeted homosexual. It's always the kids who get caught in the middle of their parents' feuds. Prince or not, Rainier was no exception to that rule. Once his father's secret surfaced, Rainier's parents fought like cats and dogs, or in this case, queens and princesses. To say that his parents' divorce caused a rift in the family would be an understatement. According to one magazine, while still on the throne, Rainier's grandfather exiled his father from Monaco. In a rage, he vowed that he would call out the Monegasque army if the prince ever set foot in the principality again. Before things got too rocky in the prince's palace, his parents had shipped Rainier off to school in England, then Switzerland, then France. But there were some fights he couldn't escape. At the age of 21, Rainier joined the French in World War II and distinguished himself in action against the forces of the Third Reich. But not long after the fighting ended, tragedy struck his family. In 1949, Rainier's grandfather died and the unassuming 26-year-old assumed the title Sovereign Prince of Monaco. At the time of his ascendancy, Monaco was considerably less impressive than it is now. Its famed casino business had gone belly up after World War II, and the royal treasury was pretty much empty. Yet somehow being broke was the least of Rainier's concerns. For exclusive perks like early access to new videos, priority replies to your comments, and to have your say on future content, consider becoming a Factinate member. On top of that, your support helps keep the channel going. Click the link in the description for more details. His parents' scandalous marriage and even more outrageous divorce had tarnished the reputation of the principality almost beyond repair. And to make matters worse, his mother seemed determined to make things impossible for her son. Throughout her disastrous marriage to Pierre, she carried on multiple affairs, and it was the affairs she had after the divorce that caused Rainier the most grief. Given that the royal coffers were empty, he had a hard time keeping his mother living in the luxury she had grown accustomed to. So she took matters into her own hands by striking up an affair with the famed jewel thief, Rainier III. The scandal shocked the people of Monaco, but that wouldn't even have made the back page of the papers after what came next. Despite not having a good example to follow, Rainier had fallen in love. While he was a student at Montpellier University, the Monegasque royal fell for the French actress Gisèle Pascal. The two had a decades-long relationship that lasted well into Rainier's reign. He began contemplating marriage, but he'd barely started browsing engagement rings when nasty rumours began circulating all around Monaco about his choice of bride. The Monegasque succession was, and still is, a rigid process. In order to be eligible to ascend to the throne, one must be either the direct descendant of the reigning monarch, their sibling, or their sibling's direct descendant. So when the rumour began circulating that Pascal was infertile, the continued existence of the throne was at stake. When the rumours were confirmed, Rainier had no choice but to call off the relationship for the sake of his principality. In April of 1955, Hollywood celebrities descended on the south of France near Monaco for the annual Cannes Film Festival, and Rainier had his celebrity crush in his sights. The prince did the hospitable thing and extended an invitation to his palace to the Academy Award-winning actress Grace Kelly. On the day of their meeting, Kelly's procession was involved in a minor car accident that delayed her arrival. In retrospect, it was a dark omen. Rainier and Grace Kelly's first meeting was the storybook princely tale that he had always wanted. Despite the fact that she was already dating the French actor Jean-Pierre Aumont, Kelly must have been impressed with Rainier. Their meeting grabbed media headlines everywhere. In the press, Kelly described him as charming, but eventually the film festival and the budding romance had to end. Rainier only met with Kelly once more in that spring of 1955 at a cocktail party in Cannes. Nevertheless, they agreed to keep up correspondence after she returned to America. Rainier had his heart broken once before and wasn't going to let another opportunity at love slip away. Less than a year after they met, in Christmas of '55, he whisked himself off to America to pursue his one true love. He must have looked rather dashing when he pulled up to Kelly's family home in Pennsylvania. He dropped to one knee and popped the question. Of course, Kelly was all too happy to marry a prince, but she wasn't the only one getting a bargain in the marriage. In his short time on the throne, Rainier had managed to boost the royal coffers, but even so, he still received a whopping $2 million dowry for Kelly's hand in marriage. Grace Kelly departed for Monaco in the spring of 1956 and arrived 2 weeks before the big day. To say that she received a warm welcome wouldn't even begin to describe the excitement in Monaco. Rainier had to call in authorities from neighbouring France to keep the adoring crowds at bay. The wedding consisted of 2 ceremonies, a boring legal one and then a lavish religious one. The legal ceremony took place on April 18th at the Prince's Palace. The big ceremony and equally large celebration took place the very next day at St. Nicholas Cathedral. 700 guests attended the ceremony and another 30 million watched the event live on television. Watching that extravagant day, it was hard to picture the nightmare that lay ahead. While they seemed to enjoy having the world's most anticipated and closely watched wedding, Rainier later called the celebrations the biggest circus in history. Of all the wedding gifts that Rainier and Kelly received, the best probably came from the Greek shipping magnate Aristotle Onassis. The billionaire gifted the newlywed Monegasque royals the Deo Juvanti II, a luxurious yacht which they promptly took on a 2-week cruise around the Mediterranean for their honeymoon. For almost 30 long years, Rainier was able to enjoy the stable, healthy family life he had always wanted. He and Kelly had 3 children together between 1957 and 1965, and they both took up many charitable and philanthropic endeavours. But Rainier soon got the urge for a life outside of his princely and fatherly duties. In their own way, movies had brought Rainier and Kelly together. They had met during the Cannes Film Festival after all, so in 1979 it made sense that the couple would return to film. Rainier made his acting debut alongside his wife in the short film Rearranged. For a while it seemed like the royal couple were going to rule both Monaco and Hollywood. But that same year, tragedy struck. Grace Kelly suffered a stroke while driving home with their youngest daughter, Princess Stephanie. In an instant, Grace was gone and Rainier lost his beloved wife. He swore that he'd never fall in love again. Everyone has their flaws, even the ever-dashing Rainier III. Allegedly, he smoked up to 60 cigarettes a day, and with habits like that, he wasn't long for this world either. Between January and November of 2004, he checked into hospital 3 times with various conditions ranging from general fatigue to coronary lesions. The following year, he once again found himself in hospital and on a ventilator for renal and heart failure. Though his condition improved slightly the next day, his doctors remained reserved on his prognosis. Rainier died the following month in April of 2005, almost 50 years to the day since he had met Grace Kelly. After a lifetime of family struggles and ups and downs, Rainier finally laid his head down to rest. It's fitting that his eternal resting place is St. Nicholas Cathedral, right next to his wife and the woman who brought him the only happiness he knew. The same place where they had taken their wedding vows. At the time of his death, Rainier was 81 years old. He had been the sovereign Prince of Monaco for nearly 6 decades, making him one of the longest-serving monarchs in history. Not too shabby for a guy that started out with vipers for parents and a cloud of legitimacy hanging over his head. However, one dark cloud did hang over his death. Princess Stephanie was always the black sheep of the royal family, but that doesn't mean she deserved the cruel betrayal Rainier dealt her before he died. For whatever reason, Prince Rainier all but excluded Princess Stephanie from his will. Instead, he gave the majority of his fortune to her older siblings, Princess Caroline and Prince Albert. Reportedly, it was worth billions. He didn't leave her entirely empty-handed, he left her 1% of his estate. Grace Kelly and Prince Rainier III were one of Europe's great love stories, but what about his first romance, Giselle Pascal? Rainier left her over her infertility, but he had no idea that he was in the middle of yet another one of his family's many deceptions. As it turns out, Pascal wasn't infertile. In fact, she would later go on to have a child with another man and live her happily ever after far away from Monaco and its conniving royals. So which family member had betrayed Rainier III this time? His father had lied about his sexual orientation. His mother hadn't lied, but given her dating history, probably should have. But the demise of his happy relationship was all thanks to his ambitious and manipulative older sister, Princess Antoinette, Baroness of Massy. She had figured that if Rainier never married, then he couldn't have children, and her own son would ascend to the throne. If you enjoyed this Factinate video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more incredible stories. If you want a say in who we cover next, join our membership program through the link in the description for exclusive perks. Your support means everything to us. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.